why you should be going to a dirt track race. So this video is basically going to be explaining to you guys who have never been to a dirt track race or have no idea what it is, basically what goes on at a dirt track, what you can kind of expect, and the reasons why we love it as drivers and fans. Now in this video we're also going to be kind of dispelling some of the myths that surround dirt racing that may keep you from going to a dirt track race. Hopefully we can kind of put some of those fears and myths to the side and open you guys up to the idea of maybe going and checking out your local dirt track on every Friday or Saturday night. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So starting off, this is an actual dirt track. You guessed it, that means the track surface is dirt. Now the wonderful thing about a dirt track is it's a living, breathing thing because it is constantly changing. Basically what I mean by that, there's a lot of differences during the night with moisture content, so it can be real dusty, it can be real muddy. It really just comes down to how well the racetrack held up. But it also changes the way the racing happens on these dirt tracks, which can be for better or for worse. It could be a wreck fest one night, or it could be a single file, you know, one line race. But with that being said, basically, fair warning, if you are going to a dirt track for the first time, I highly suggest you bring you some safety glasses, clear safety glasses, because usually by the end of the night there's a lot of dust being kicked up. You are going to be wearing the majority of the dust that comes off of the racetrack because you're the first thing it hits when it comes off the racetrack, but you're also going to have your vehicle absolutely covered in dirt. Especially if you're in the south, you're going to see a nice red sheen across your vehicle, and that's just from the racetrack and all the stuff being kicked up from the race cars. But fair warning, it is going to be quite dirty, and your shower is probably going to be pretty nasty when you get home, but I suggest just taking you a pair of safety glasses and just enjoy it. There's nothing you can do about it, you can't really hide from it, and it's part of dirt racing. But it's not as bad as some people say it is. It's just kind of an inconvenience, I guess, but honestly it's still so much fun you don't really care, and it's part of what makes a dirt track a dirt track. Okay, so with dirt racing, the racing tends to be a little bit more rough. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that we're wanting to fight each other, it's just what happens on the dirt track. There's a lot of bumping and grinding going on because you're racing 90 miles an hour and up sideways with each other, and if a car's blocking you or trying to purposely slow you down, you're going to move that car because there's a lot less laps in a dirt race, as I mentioned earlier. So you have less time to get something done or make something happen. So when you come out for your heat race, it's a random draw position. If you come out and you're in the back, you're only going to have 5 or 6 laps to get to the front, so you can start on the front row for the main event. Usually there's no qualifying unless it's a big money race. But weekly races, it's a random draw position for the heat race, and you have 5 laps to get it done. And that always produces some great racing. You're going to see really the true talent come to the front, or who has the most money come to the front. But it's always just a mad thrash fight tooth and nail for each position, and sometimes that means cars may have to move other cars. So yes, it does get rougher. Fights are not exactly as common as a lot of people think they are, but some feelings do get hurt because of the moving and grinding. Sometimes people take that the wrong way, I guess, but it's a part of dirt racing. You're going to see it in pretty much every class the whole night, so it can be rougher, but I don't want to say that fighting's an extremely common thing in racing. So don't go to the racetrack with the mentality of there is going to be a fight because it's a dirt track. Total big misconception and myth about dirt racing, at least I think. Facilities aren't always that great at dirt tracks. Now what I mean by that is they're not going to be held to the same standards as something like a NASCAR track would be, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the seating is probably going to be either like concrete slabs that go down a hill, or they're going to be just your basic bleacher seating. Now, most racetracks will allow you to bring a lawn chair or something like that, and they have a designated place for you to sit. I know at Carolina Speedway you can sit in the middle row or the middle bleacher thing, I guess, and you can sit there and you can sit up top if you have a lawn chair. Now, if you don't have a lawn chair, you can bring in a cushion or something to sit on. I would highly recommend bringing one because you don't want to be uncomfortable at a racetrack and having to stand the whole time. So that's something you should kind of keep in mind. But the facilities aren't really that bad. There's actually some really nice dirt tracks out there, but I've also been to some that weren't as great. So just keep that in mind before you go. See if you can find some pictures, figure out what kind of seating you want to do, whether that be the lawn chair or a cushion. But also make sure if you are going to bring a lawn chair, ask the racetrack first and make sure you can bring that in. Okay, now to some of the more things that makes a racetrack a racetrack. When you go to these racetracks and you want to get a snack or something like that, it's going to be super high calorie, super greasy, just yummy, stick to your bone food. It's just nice. But basically the food's really nice. It's pretty much like any stadium food that you're going to get, whether you be like a football game, basketball game, something like that. It's the similar style of food. Don't go expecting you could get like vegan, kosher, whatever food. It's not going to happen. But just be mindful of that if you go. Some racetracks will even have like a specialty item. Carolina Speedway at one point had what I believe they called the Dirty Burger. It was like a jalapeno bacon cheeseburger, and it was fantastic. Some even actually contract out like food vendors. I know one of our racetracks around here has a like a candy ice cream kind of store at the racetrack, and they sell that alongside of their regular concessions that night. But also some of them will even contract out for like boiled peanuts or something like that, and it's a huge hit. So you're going to have a lot of options when you go, and you can even eat there if you want to. Instead of actually going out to eat and spending money at a restaurant, you could spend a little extra money at the racetrack and have some of their racetrack food. Okay, so if you haven't figured it out yet, race cars are loud. Now, when we go to the racetrack, we're actually very used to the noise, so it doesn't bother us as much as somebody who's never been around a race car before. If you have small kids or you're real sensitive to hearing, I would highly recommend if you go spend like $1 on those little foam earplugs you can roll up and put in your ears, because you don't want it to be to the point where you have to walk out or take your kid out because of how loud the cars are. You know, you don't want to have a bad time, especially if this is your first time going to a racetrack. Again, we're used to it, so after a couple races that you go to, you may not need them anymore. So there you go, that's all fine and dandy, but I would recommend for the first time, take some hearing protection just in case. Okay, now with dirt racing, you also have to keep in mind that these are not exactly the most technologically advanced race cars. Now with NASCAR, you see very high dollar race engines, high dollar chassis setups with real precision building. And even in some of the upper classes in dirt racing, you start to see that. But the majority of the time, these are race cars that are pretty much either pulled from a junkyard, or they'll take a body off of the car that they want to build just to use the frame. They'll build a cage and they'll build the car in their driveway, shop, garage, lean-to, street, whatever. And that's what I love, because everybody builds race cars differently, and you know, hopefully they're built safely, but they still have a characteristic about them. It says a lot about the builders, and I think that's what's so cool, is that the guys who drive the cars are also usually the same ones who build it. So I think that's a pretty unique thing, especially with short track racing. These cars are not really, I guess, have a lot of money spent on them for graphics and whatnot, like you see in the like custom paint job department of the NASCAR series and whatnot. They're usually just basic wraps with the numbers and the sponsors on them. And the majority of the time, these cars are pretty battle worn, because they're being raced pretty hard. And each car is really, you know, there's no two cars that are alike, and each car has its own characteristics. So that's what I think is pretty unique about the dirt racing. Okay, so another big reason why I love dirt track racing. When you go to the racetrack, you have the option of buying a regular pass to get into the stands, or a regular ticket, and then if you spend maybe $10, $15 more depending on the racetrack, you can actually get into the pits at the racetrack. And I know if you go to a NASCAR race, it's going to be significantly more expensive. But the reason I love the dirt racing so much and the involvement with the pit passes is because you are literally walking around race cars that are running, idling through the pits. They stage around you. They're sometimes avoiding you if you're in the way. But you can be up close and personal with these race cars, and I know for a fact NASCAR does not allow you to do that. They don't let you come hang out with the crews and the drivers and whatnot. So you're really up close and personal with these race cars. Most drivers are more than happy to give you a tour of their vehicle or even their trailer, as long as they're not busy. You don't want to walk up while they're, you know, in the middle of something, trying to fix something or work on the car, tune the car, whatever, and interrupt them that way. But if they're not doing anything, I encourage you, especially if you have a kid, go up, talk to them. Most drivers I know are more than welcome. They more than welcome people to come up, ask them about the race car, ask them, you know, how things kind of work and how they do things and whatnot, and you really do get it up close and personal with these race cars. And we've even let kids, fans of ours, sit in our car at the racetrack. We don't mind at all. In fact, we love that, and I believe it builds a very healthy relationship between the drivers and the fans of the racing. So I absolutely love it, and I encourage you, if you enjoy dirt racing, after the first couple times you go, get a pit pass, go check out those race cars, you know, real close. You're going to be real close up. Check out, you know, how they do things and get to know some of the drivers. But that's another big reason why I love dirt racing.
Come here.
My cat has decided to join me for this video. Alright, so arguably what I love the most about the short track racing, but more specifically the dirt racing, and that has to be the atmosphere. Now this is something that has lasted with me since I was a kid. When my dad used to take me to the racetrack, there was nothing better than coming around the bend or coming over top of the hill and seeing the racetrack, seeing all the cars out there in the pits, and then seeing, you know, everybody filing into the stadium and whatnot. Like, there was just something about it that I loved so much. And as you got closer, especially when it was race time, you could hear just this deep rumbling in the pits. It was just the coolest thing ever, and I absolutely loved it. And that has lasted since I've been a kid. I haven't lost that, thank God, because that to me is one of the most magical things about dirt racing. So if you've never been, it's pretty comparable to like a college football game or even a professional sports game. On the big races, sometimes you will see that they have tailgaters out there, which I think that's one of the most fun things to do, is to go out and tailgate. People are out throwing a football around, they're grilling out, having a good time, and they usually show up several hours before the actual race night happens, and they're just there to have a fun time. This, for a lot of people, is a way of life, and we leave our troubles at the door when we get to the racetrack, and we're there to watch good racing and to have a good time. And you just can't really find that anywhere else. I've been to professional sports games that weren't nearly as, I guess, vibrant as a dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. Now, with anything though, there usually is a pretty good amount of drinking going on, but in all honesty, I have maybe seen in the past year like 2 people just drunk in public. So I know sometimes NASCAR kind of gets a bad rap for that. I also know that some short track racing gets a bad rap for that. But honestly and truly, I usually don't see anybody that's so intoxicated they can't stand up. It's honestly, it's about the same as going to any restaurant that has a bar in it. It's not what a lot of people think it is. It's actually a very well-mannered venue. So I encourage you to go check it out. The atmosphere is absolutely wonderful. If you can go to a big race and go tailgate before with either a bunch of friends or even to make new friends, go check this out, because you will not find this atmosphere anywhere else. Racetrack crowds are usually some of the most inviting people, and they're there solely to have a good time. Okay guys, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about a few different things, but obviously I don't want to do that. If you've never been to a dirt track race, or if you're very hesitant to go, I beg of you, go give it a shot. Go find a track that you like. You know, and if you go to one and you don't like it, don't think that that track stands for what every single dirt track's going to be like. So I beg of you, try several different tracks, find which one you like. I promise you, you're going to make friends at the racetrack. That's just the way it is. It's a very welcoming atmosphere. So go check it out. Take your friends, take your family, take your kids, you know, how many other people you want to take. But go check it out. Give it a chance. I absolutely love this sport. I love driving in it, but I also love watching. So it's something to do on the weekend. You know, if you want to change things up, instead of just maybe going out to eat, go check out a racetrack. Go check out and see what that's all about. But anyways, if you have any questions kind of about the racetrack atmosphere, you can leave them in the comments below. But honestly, the best people to ask would be the racetracks you're thinking about going to. Usually there's a Facebook page for those racetracks. You can ask questions, you know, like do they have a family section? Do you allow lawn chairs, stuff like that. But definitely go check it out. If you are involved in dirt racing and have been to a bunch of dirt track races, tell me in the comments below what your favorite memory with dirt racing is. I would love to hear them. But guys, with that, thank you so much for watching the video, and as always, we will see you in the next video.